The Poet and the Machine. Why AI anxiety sends us back to poetry.
All right, let's kick things off with a story that just blew up in the world of AI. It's got everything: a super high-stakes warning, a career change you will not see coming, and, of course, a very, very angry internet.
The world is in peril. Now, those aren't my words. Those are the words of a senior AI safety researcher, someone right at the heart of building this stuff, whose entire job is to make sure it doesn't, go completely haywire. A pretty chilling warning coming from inside the house.
And then comes the twist. With that bombshell dropped, he resigns. But he doesn't go to a competitor. He doesn't join some government oversight committee. Nope, he leaves to write poetry. And the reaction from the tech world? It was fast, and it was not friendly.
So that's the big question we're going to unpack here. Why did that make people so angry? This isn't just about some corporate squabble or debate over safety protocols. It's about what this specific choice, trading code for poetry, actually symbolizes, and why it touched such a raw nerve.
All right, so let's get into it. First up, that online reaction. Because what's so telling is that people weren't really arguing about the technical details. Oh no, it was much more personal than that.
The backlash was immediate. People were calling him a coward, saying it was weak sauce, just a ton of mockery. You saw this weird warrior-like posturing online, like he was abandoning his post in some great battle. It's clear his decision didn't just question a policy, it rattled something much, much deeper.
So what is really going on here? I mean, to get a reaction that emotional, you've got to look deeper than just the surface-level debate, right? This goes beyond tech. It gets into psychology and philosophy. And a good place to start is with the philosopher Jacques Lacan.
So Lacan talked about this thing called the real. It's basically a moment that just shatters the comfortable story we tell ourselves about the world. And you could argue this resignation was one of those moments. It punctured the fantasy that, don't worry, the experts have this all under control. It revealed a crack in the system, and that's a recipe for some serious anxiety.
And then there's Nietzsche. He'd look at all that warrior talk and probably label it resentment. It's a fancy word, but the idea is simple. It's when you feel insecure or weak, so you overcompensate by acting morally superior and strong. It's a defense mechanism, basically. A way to puff out your chest when you feel like your entire worldview is under attack.
Okay, so we've got some psychological angles. But that's not the whole story, because it feels like the real lightning rod here was the poetry. So let's talk about why poetry, of all things, really gets under the skin of technologists.
I mean, really think about it. Why poetry? He could have done anything else, right? Start a think tank, become a critic, go work for the government. He could have just vanished. But no, he chose poetry. Why was that the thing that seemed to set everyone off?
And this, I think, really gets to the heart of it. You've got two totally opposite ways of seeing the world. On one side, you have the system, tech culture, which is all about scale, speed, optimization, making money. And on the other side, you have the poem. It's about the individual, about slowing down, about embracing messiness and ambiguity, and crucially, about accepting limits.
So when you look at it that way, choosing poetry isn't a retreat. It's not running away. It's a direct confrontation. In a culture that worships speed and scale, poetry is a rebellion. It stands up and says, hey, there's value in the things you can't measure, the things you can't optimize. Things like ambiguity and human limitation.
And this clash of values, it's not just some abstract culture war thing. It actually points to a huge structural problem, a real fault line running right through the middle of AI development itself.
Okay, so here's the central contradiction. Step 1. To build this frontier AI, you need insane amounts of capital. Step 2. That capital demands you go faster, get bigger, scale up. But, and this is the key, Step 3. Real, actual safety requires you to do the exact opposite. It needs friction. It needs you to slow down and set limits. So the system is basically promising to floor the accelerator and slam on the brakes at the very same time. And you can just imagine the strain that puts on the people inside.
And this leads to a really interesting idea. Maybe the peril he was talking about isn't, robot overlords in a Terminator-style apocalypse. Maybe the real danger is something quieter, something more human. It's this growing disconnect, this erosion of coherence between our technological power, our ability to govern it, and our capacity to find meaning in it all.
So if that's the problem, it brings us back to the beginning. Why poetry? How could something that seems so impractical possibly be necessary right now?
Well, think about what poetry actually teaches us. It's kind of like a workout for your brain, but for things our tech-obsessed culture is really bad at.
Poetry, by its very nature, admits that language isn't perfect. It never pretends to have the one single right answer. It makes you comfortable with messiness, with contradiction. It's an encounter with our own human limits.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it suggests that before we keep asking, will AI dominate us, maybe we need to turn the camera around and ask some much harder questions about ourselves. Like, can our institutions even handle the idea of incompleteness? Are we capable of building things that don't promise total knowledge and perfect control? Or is that obsession just baked into everything we do?
What about the stories we tell ourselves? Can we handle a narrative that's ambiguous? One that doesn't have a clear good guy, a clear bad guy, and a simple ending? Or do we always need it wrapped up in a neat little bow?
And maybe most importantly, can our public conversation hold two conflicting ideas at once without just collapsing? Right now, it feels like we only have two modes. It's the end of the world or that chest-thumping, we got this bravado. Is there a middle ground?
Because if the answer to all those questions is no, well, that leads to a pretty challenging final thought. Maybe the problem isn't the AI. Maybe the machine is just showing us something that was already broken inside of us, our own inability to face complexity, ambiguity, and the simple fact that we are limited.